Welcome back. So today I thought I would just jump in and talk about some of my favorite manga. My last video, we went over pretty much the whole collection. And so I thought that I would start with some of my favorites and do a quick review of one. Today we're going to start with Friuts Basket. I'm taking this out of the plastic for you. This is an occasion for me. So I thought we'd do a quick review. Just go through my favorite parts and the general synopsis of the story, how I feel about this manga. So let's just jump in. Okay, so I first started collecting this, I want to say 2013, I would say. This was one of my first, I think this was one of my first manga that I got. And it captivated my attention, mainly because the story is so interesting. It has such an underlying tone of fear, or getting over fear, or conquering your fear, or facing fear. And I think at that time there was a lot of things that I was fearful of, and so I thought that it just kind of resonated with me. The characters themselves, and also just the different things that they have to go through. So let me jump in and just give you a little synopsis of it. Friuts Basket is a story about the zodiac, and this girl, Toru, on the cover, she stumbles upon this sort of mystical family that lives in the woods. Well, there's a couple of them that live in the woods. And over time, she gets to know them, she starts to live with them, and gets deep within their family business, in a sense. And throughout the whole series, she's pretty much trying to assist them, a select few, which then leads to more. And then throughout the process, she also falls in love and discovers herself, learns about herself and how she feels about certain things that have happened in her past, reflects on her life, and sort of this ability of wanting to be perfect, or at least wanting to be as helpful as possible to another person or to a group of people. So it's a very interesting story. And I do like how the author and the storyteller goes, and she dives into every aspect of how a person would, I guess, behave in such a situation where they're surrounded by unknowns, they're surrounded by fear, they're surrounded by a lot of things that just doesn't make sense, but still like, oh, okay, cool. We'll try and figure that out. Hold on a second. And we're back. Filming with children is fun. Anyway, so that's pretty much the gist of the story, without giving spoilers, I guess, because this has been out for a long time, but if you haven't read it, I don't really want to ruin the story for you. But yeah, I would say in the first book, or the introduction to the characters, you get to know Toru, you get to know 3 of the Soma family members, which is who is possessed by the zodiac. I guess that's a spoiler. But you kind of find this out at the beginning of the story anyway, so I don't think it's too much of a spoiler. And then you get to know her 2 best friends that she has known since she was, I guess, in middle school. So it goes through that. You also get to get glimpses of her mom, and a backstory as to why a young girl goes to live with a bunch of men in the woods, in a house in the woods. So there's that. which is pretty strange. And then you have some side characters in there. In the beginning, you do find out her mother is no longer with us, but you do get to know more about her mother later on in the story and how she pretty much is trying to emulate as much of the strength that her mother has shown her throughout life. And yeah, which also then you figure out she doesn't talk too much about her father either, and then you figure out why that is, which, I mean, that you'll find out when you read the story. But very, very good. So yeah, to start, I would say I have notes because I wanted to put, just to make sure I'm giving some context. So I find that the themes of the story is usually prominently based on either an individual's fear, a collective fear. I also see a lot of trauma, or figuring out how their trauma is kind of affecting the general continuation of the story, or why certain actions don't get accomplished until the end. I mean, granted, that is proper storytelling. You don't want to, resolve everything right away, because then the story is really short. It's definitely not a short story. There's 23 volumes in the story, so I would say it's a pretty long manga. Then there is obviously love, because it's a shoujo manga. There's usually love somewhere within it. And there's a lot of family tropes and what we think family is, or what they feel family is. And in most cases, it's like your chosen family and not necessarily your birth family. So there's a big emphasis on what that looks like to each individual, which I find that's really great, because they all have some sort of disconnect from their family, whether it's not understanding how the zodiac thing affects them, or you're overtly loving or doubting onto the child because they're different, or you're completely rejecting them because it's just like, well, this is like a beast. So there's that. And then once you get to the middle of the book, I think everything is pretty fleshed out by then, right? In my opinion anyway. You kind of know who every character is. You kind of know what the dynamic is. Most of it is set in a high school sort of situation. So you do get that sort of high school drama feels of young people, but then some of it is really deep and dark. Like there's actually, I'm looking at this page right now, where one of the main characters, Kyo, which, spoiler, is my favorite character in the book, he has like an additional transformation, which is absolutely terrifying, and somehow Toru is supposed to love the ugliness of this other part of him. And I find that it's such a deep concept for a young person to be able to understand everything that's going on here, comprehend it, but then still love this side of a person. And granted, it's not his fault, but this is happening. But at the same time, it's like, I get why, his parents would look at it and be like, oh my gosh, this is such a monster, or I don't know how I feel about you, or I hate you. But then at the same time, it's like, it's your child. So regardless of what they look like or how they turn out, you still have to have some sort of a love or connection towards them. But then that's not always the case. I mean, that's even now in real life in society. There are a lot of parents who have children with disabilities and illnesses and different things like that, and they put them up for adoption, or they mistreat them, or only take care of them for financial benefit that they get from the government and things like that. So like, not everyone is going to unconditionally love their children. So I think that like plays on that as a theme as well, which it's a lot for a young person to be reading into and seeing this, but it also opens up your eyes to see the fascination of what love can look like when it is good and when it's bad and when it's just indifferent. So I do love that. Another one of my favorite characters is Rin. She is so fantastic. I'm biased because she's technically my zodiac sign. I'm the horse and she is the horse. But as a character, oh my goodness. Like the ebbs and flows of this character and her behaviors, just the trauma. Oh my god. The way like she's treated, but then she has this beautiful love story as well with Hatsuharu, and oh my god, he's so cute, and he's so like, there's some really cute characters in here. I'm kind of biased with that because I just think animated characters are just really good looking, especially in shoujo manga. But I mean, look, it's Hatsuharu. Anyway, it's a good story, and yeah, so by the middle everything's pretty fleshed out, and you get to know like the little ins and outs of the characters and their behaviors, as well as like the jokes. You'll get like little side jokes and whips and it's just funny. Like Shigure is one of my favorites, and here he has like they finally see him in a suit for the first time because he's always wearing some sort of like a yokata or something like that, and he's in a suit and they're like, oh my god, you have a real job. You're a real person, you're not just a perv that just sits at home all day and make witty jokes or sleeps all night or have pervy manga on your shelf. You're actually a proper human. But yeah, it's pretty funny. Anyway, let's jump onto the last book. So I thought, I'm not showing you the ending, but just talking about how it sort of ends off. I don't love the ending. I like that it's happy and that there is some resolution and conclusion to the story, but I'm not a fan of how it ended. Dun dun dun. But I do love that the story is kind of fleshed out and wrapped up. Not everybody gets a happy ending. There's just so much to say. I'm seeing so many characters in here that I'm just like, oh my gosh, they've developed so much from the first book. Like when Mumiji, he is one of the characters that's like, he's really cutesy, really chibi, and he really plays that sort of androgynous role where it's like cutesy, but like you're a boy, but at the same time it's like, you know, really feminized and whatnot. And so here at the end, it's like, it's a total transformation. It's a development that you're just like, what? But then he turns around and he makes like a stupid whip, and you just kind of remember the childlikeness of like the first book, or the first part of the books, which is really so cute. And it's the same thing with like Rin, and like, you know, how her story developed where she was this moody character, but then she also has like this really feminine side to her. And I just love that it plays so well on the feminine and the masculine, whether that you're a male or female character in this. It just shows that you can be as, you know, as you are. One of the main characters in the story, which they're actually the head of the family, was raised as a boy pretty much, right? And it's just I mean, I guess spoiler spoiler alert, that they get to see their other side. And you know, that's another love story that is not really told in the norm. And that's one thing that I love about manga, is that there's so many stories that don't get told in mainstream society, but you pick up any manga and you'll find, you know, an odd pairing or a couple that just doesn't seem like they would fit, but somehow they do. It's not expected that a woman would be feminine or a man would be masculine. So I do love that concept within these books because it really emphasizes on that. And I love that about these characters. It just, it fascinates me. And throughout the book, even here at the end as I'm flipping through it, I still see the same sort of dynamics, which is the fear and conquering them, getting to that other side, the trauma of dealing with your parents and your life and being misunderstood, death, and then at the same time, there's so much love and friendship and family. And this is a string that is just throughout this entire series, right? Toru's family accepting, Kyo as he is, and knowing that, they're going to be shifting the dynamic of their relationship and potentially moving far away, or you're not able to keep that same family unit once you start a relationship or end a relationship, and like what does that look like. And it's just the themes are very cohesive and continuous through it. And I'm always fascinated that a story is able to grasp an audience so vividly. And it's such a vast audience, because I know men who have read this series and have been hooked on it. And I've, seen that even though it's a shoujo and it's definitely pointed in the direction of more of the female gaze, it's still fascinating to see how well written this story is, and how captivating it is to its audience. So I do recommend this as a read, but I also do recommend it as a watch as well, because I know that a lot of times people don't have the time to sit and flip through manga. I do, because one, it smells delicious. Oh my god, it's bad. But yeah, it smells great. I love the smell of books. But the anime is there, and you get to see it in all its glory, and it's done really well there as well. So do check out Crunchyroll. Not sponsored. Not that I have any sponsors right now, but I think that you would enjoy the story. And yeah, if you guys are watching this to the end, please subscribe and like and comment. I love reading your comments. I do respond to them. And let me know if there is any manga you want me to review. I have many. I will most likely have something that you're recommending. Or if you saw my previous video that went through the list of manga that I have, that I showed you a glimpse of, if you saw something in there that you want me to talk about, then let me know, and I will talk about it and tell you how much I love them. But for today, Friuts Basket is it. I realized that the 3 books I chose have 3 female protagonists on there. That's so funny. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thank you guys for joining, and have a good night. Peace.